A very warm welcome to everyone for joining us for the third episode of the Impact Conversations with Avishkar Group. I'm Soumya Suryanarayanan. I lead the Impact and ESG at Avishkar Capital. So earlier this year, the group released its Impact Report 2020, which features stories of 12 powerful women leaders in our ambit and the impact they have created. In fact, we are joined by two leaders today who've been part of the Impact Report as well, Purnima and Kiran. We wanted to bring out the human perspectives and their narratives through the journey shared by these women who are not just spirited entrepreneurs, but leaders in their own domain, household, and community, and making a difference every day. Today, we are excited to host this panel to further the dialogue on diversity, inclusion, and impact with some truly incredible leaders. Please join me in welcoming Kiran Todi, is the CFO of Ashva Finance and brings over 16 years of experience across finance, fundraising, business strategy, resource planning, risk and change management. She's been instrumental in building Home First, an affordable HFC, where she spearheaded the liability franchise of rupees 2,500 crores spread across 20 lenders from public and private sectors. Welcome, Kiran.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Soumya.
Purnima Khandedwal co-founded INI Farms in 2009 and is the first woman CEO of one of the largest fresh fruit company from India. Her strength in building long-lasting relationships has helped INI achieve leadership in exports as well as domestic market. Welcome, Purnima.
Thank you, Soumya. Pleasure being here. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Arun Maida needs no introduction. He brings an unusual combination of experience as a hands-on leader, a consultant to leaders, and a thought leader on subjects of leadership and institutional transformation in the private, public, and social sectors. Mr. Maida was a member of India's Planning Commission from 2009 to 14, and before that worked with some of the top private sector companies like Boston Consulting Group, Tata Group in India, Arthur D. Little Inc., and Innovation Associates in the US. Currently, he's the chairman of HelpAge International and an advisor to the Avishkar Group board, besides several other society networks, civil society networks. I welcome Mr. Maida to the panel and request him to lead our conversation today. Over to you, sir.
Ms. Maida, you're on mute.
Thank you. Thank you. You know, I'm being reminded, all of you participants, that I am on mute. This session is about women, and we need to hear more women, only women perhaps, and not to hear the men. So I'm sorry I'm slipping into what is required and keeping myself on mute. But welcome to Kiran and to Purnima and Soumya. Thank you for bringing us together. I would like to examine my own ways of thinking on a subject that has become a very important subject that, as Soumya mentioned to us, people with financial resources all around the world are doing and thinking about doing, which is producing impact on scale. We are experiencing in the COVID crisis around the world an impact on scale produced by a little virus, little things. And there are, I don't know how many of these are there, trillions perhaps all around the world, touching human beings all over the world, this COVID virus. It is having impact on scale for very sure. And we have to ask, where is the central factory that is producing this virus? Where is the commander-in-chief telling all the little viruses all around the world what to do, where to strike, who to infect? It's happening. As a contrast to this, we want to have an impact against the virus by producing vaccines on large scale, by large organizations controlled by their boards and CEOs, and the rollout of the vaccines controlled by heads of governments. It's the model of an army with strong people on the top, and the other, as a contrast, is small things. But they have a much greater impact on scale than this model of big chaps trying to have impact on scale. So we have to think about what is the impact we want to produce and what's the best way to produce that impact. The Nobel Peace Prize was instituted in 1901, and Alfred Nobel said that the Peace Prize would not be required to be given after 50 years, because if the right people had been found with the right ideas to give the prize to, and their ideas were then respected by others in the world and adopted, there would be no need to give any more peace prizes because there would be no further wars. That was that. In 75 years after the Peace Prize was given, a public channel, TV channel of the United States, assembled as many of the living Peace Prize winners as they could gather to ask them this question: how come, in spite of having the best ideas on how to promote peace, it's now 75 years and we still haven't got peace, in fact things are worse? And that setting was quite unusual, because it was very usual, excuse me, but very special to note that there were about 25 men in the Nobel winners in front of the interviewer, and just 2 women sitting quietly on the front row. And this interviewer kept turning to the men and they keep wanting to say something, and they were giving their thoughts and ideas about how to bring about peace. And then he put this question to the whole group and said, but Nobel said that all these ideas are there, but then why don't we get peace? And I was noticing, watching the show, that there was this older woman, there were 2 women, older woman, grandmotherly woman sitting on the front row, and she kept trying to be heard, saying, I want to say something. And well, she was being overlooked and all the men were speaking. So finally, he did notice her and say, you want to say something? So she says, well, the answer is right here to why we are not having peace in spite of celebrating the ideas of how peace is brought about. Just look around, she said. There are just 2 of us women here and so many men, and you haven't even asked us how it should be done. So this is like it today. Economics, another Nobel Prize instituted in 1968. 65 or 66 persons to date have been given Nobel Prizes in economics. Only 2 have been women. And the first Nobel Prize in economics going to a woman was in 2009, which was to Alina Rostrom, and her work was on community action. Yes, so economists didn't think that was something worthy to give a prize to, and it happened to be a woman also who had that idea. So I think I'm in the right company here to explore this question. How can we make the world better for everyone? A man's way of having impact, I'm using my fist here to show it, is punch hard, use force, have impact. Well, in a family, there's the mother and there's the father in the front always. And the mother's way is to create well-being for everyone in the family. Children, father, grandchildren, parents, difficult children, good children. She has a way of producing impact, if I might say, of well-being. And the father has his own dominant male-like way. Women are being included more and more in the man's world, and we are saying include them, give them positions on the boards, count how many women you have in various levels of your companies and so on. What we are doing is we are co-opting women into men's ways of doing things. In fact, women need to dress up like men, it seems, to be acceptable in boardrooms and so on. So I'm very happy to see Purnima and Kiran, both of you, looking so lovely and graceful as women. And I want to now ask both of you some questions. And before I do that, just to acknowledge that Avishkar has done something beautiful here. This Impact Report 2020 has got Swati to say something to start, and then she's got the 12 women leaders. Vineet and Swati have been on this journey together for many, many years. I've known Vineet more and got to know Swati too. It's always been Vineet in the front, yes? And I'm so glad that Vineet and Swati decided it's about time we saw women in the front, right? So here we are, and I've got some questions for for you. And I'm going to start with you, Kiran, if you don't mind. You are from the finance world, right? And I'm talking about impact through finance. But what does impact mean to you? And how do you make money work for the emerging 3 billion people?
Sure. Thank you so much, Mr. Myra. First of all, I would like to thank the group for giving me this great opportunity. I think sharing this stage with an eminent leader like yourself and an entrepreneur like Nima, it's a blessing in itself. And I'm really, really fortunate to have that. And what you said, I think it is so eminent. That there is always a balancing act which is required in our lives. Whether it is in the running of the organization or the household, I think it is very eminent that women play an equal role to the men, and that is how the balance is created. Now that I have been given this opportunity, I think I'll definitely like to talk about impact, which was your question, sir. Impact to me is finding solutions to problems which pose risk to the environment, to society, to the economy, to the people. I think I see impact as a very, very simple concept. And any opportunity to transform this challenge into an investing opportunity is an impact investment for me. That's how I see it. If I were to talk about all the leaders who have been talking about impact in the last few years, there is a concept of contextual impact, and I think I totally agree with that, because the way we see impact in India would be very, very different the way we see impact in the US or in the West. And under this contextual impact, I think what I will like to bring forth is the MSME segment, because that is our forte at Ashwa, and that's where we belong to. If we were to look at the MSME segment, the way an MSME is assessed for their credit worthiness, historically, if the way we see, they need to offer collaterals to be able to get a loan in the industry. They need to have a repayment track record, which should be good enough, which should be sufficient enough for the entity to take a call on the loan. Thirdly, if we were to see, what are the documents that they have to offer? Do they have an income document which indicates their revenue size, the taxable profits, the tax returns that they have filed? I would like to make a statement here for Ashwa. I think Ashwa has been able to shatter all these stereotyped way of looking at an MSME. If I were to bring in a couple of matrices, here, Ashwa has 65% of customer base who has been assessed for their credit worthiness on the basis of simple cash flows. I think that is a great achievement for Ashwa. The way we have refocused the strategy and the focus of Ashwa to bring in more inclusion of MSMEs so that they can lead the growth story of India. If I were to look at the current customer base, 90% of our customers are without any collaterals. So these are completely unsecured loans. And the way our asset quality numbers pan out, is there anything wrong in that? Definitely not. I think we are just doing the right thing. And if I were to talk about, say, the credit bureau score, 30% of our customers have inadequate credit bureau score. Either they have no track record, they have no history, or it is quite insufficient. So I think that is impact.
Mm-hmm. You already are explaining to me something that I wanted to explore, and it was about the ways in which the finance sector can become more inclusive for women. And when you talked about collaterals, that you are being careful not to insist on the conventional sort of collaterals that the finance sector requires, which is like property assets. Now, it's always that women don't have property in their name, even if, I say, they're a member of a family, it's always in the name of a man. So if we want to include women in enterprises, and the finance sector has to learn to value something else about the woman's ability to return. And so there is something that the finance sector needs to learn to value for the sake of managing its own risks. And it's not the usual way of a collateral. So could you say something about what are these new ways that are being applied?
Yeah, sure, sir. I think very true. I agree 110% to what you are saying. I think we have to disconnect the stereotyped ways of looking at it from a woman. This concept of linking the social status of the woman to the
Kiran, you're breaking up.
Okay, I will just check on my internet connection.
Yeah.
Yeah, now it looks like it's stable.
You're a little clearer. So just repeat that about different ways you were saying.
Yeah, sure. So collaterals is something, Mr. Myra, which I already spoke about, and which we at Ashwa, we believe in it quite a bit. And that is applicable to across the population that we serve. If we were to look at women, historically, the way women have been assessed in terms of their credit worthiness, there is a linkage that is made to her social status. It makes a difference in the credit application to understand whether the woman is single, whether she's married, whether she's a divorcee, or does she has a male partner who's helping her in the business, and that male partner, is he a brother, a father, or a husband? I think this delinking is very, very important. Why should we at all bring that context when we are reviewing the credit papers of a woman? There is a study in France, a paper which has been released, and the research paper says that the women have a credit repayment track record of 95%, which is far higher, close to around 20% higher than the average population repayment track record. I think there have been enough such surveys conducted, and we are there. We have started getting there. We have to do more, I think, to get there.
Very nice. So in your own organization, are you only women in Ashwa Finance, or you have men also working with you?
No, we have a very well-balanced team. Very well-balanced team. At the board level, we have 40% representation by women, and also at leadership level. In fact, what we intend to do is to bring that percentage higher when it comes to across the employees, across the board. In more balance.
So
we have put ourselves a goal that we are going to achieve that in the next 3 years.
Right. I'd like to just move to ask Purnima some questions and come back to you, Kiran, because I have a question in mind. But I think what Purnima might say might begin to answer that question. And this is, again, related to how many women are taking decisions in the organization, right? You can have women as workers, but they're like in the board. Who are the people who actually influence the decisions of the organization? Purnima, doing remarkable work of the INI farmers. And so there are many, many women doing many, many things, and they got their own enterprises and they take their own decisions more so. So just explain your enterprise and who takes the decisions and regarding what, and what are women's roles in this?
Thank you so much, Mr. Myra. Interesting question. I actually come from a school of thought which believes in gender neutrality, right? So very strong as far as that is concerned. Interestingly, we have 3 women on the board of INI out of 5. So even as a leadership at the board level itself, quite a balanced approach. And this is coming from the fact that not because there's a regulatory requirement to have a women representation on the board, but simply because we think we are capable to be there in that position. So, Mr. Myra, INI Farms is a husband-wife founding team. So, it's me and Pankaj who founded INI Farms in 2009. So we bring in very, very different skills and competencies to the table, right? And to the organization. Pankaj is a task analytics person, and I'm a complete people person. So very different skills. And that's how, we've built INI Farms over these years. And that's I think, one of the greatest reasons for success of INI, because it brings in the diversity, it brings in thinking process which is diverse, and interestingly, we've been able to coexist with that diversity, right? Even as husband and wife leading an enterprise for now almost 11 years. So at leadership level, it's about how competent you are and do you deserve to be in that position. And this is truly how we've looked at employment across the board. We are a fruit company at the end of the day. And trust me, women understand fruit much, much better than men, whether it is with regards to nutrition, with regards to food safety, with regards to handling, hygiene. So even, in our operations, we have very large number of women who are employed simply because they are able to handle the fruit the way it needs to be. So we have a line of business which is fresh cut, which is, where we take a pomegranate, we cut it open, take the seeds out, put it into convenience pack for consumers to eat across the world, completely fresh without any preservatives. Now, we realize that when we put a woman to do this activity, the diligence, the discipline, the eye for detail that she has when she's taking the seed out, right? It's without damaging it. And, a damage to a seed means wastage and spoilage when it reaches the consumer, right? So it has a dual impact when you just look at the entire supply chain. The amount of diligence that is required and the way women do it is exceptional. And that is how we've looked at integrating women in our organization across the board.
Purnima and you and Kiran both said that it's not about women being superior to men. As you said, the men also have some goodness in them, thank goodness. But it's bringing both together. It's bringing both together. So I come to, yes, I mean, we're generalizing that men have a desire for efficiency to, get things done properly and so on, and to tend to overpower the system to impose, rules of efficiency on the system. And as you're pointing about, women seem to understand fruit, they seem to understand nature. They behave more like as if they're part of it. They sort of respect it and treat it with respect. Whereas men wish to, for the sake of efficiency, and use power to take out bad things and impose their good things into the system. So in any decision that we take in an enterprise, we need efficiency for sure, but we do need a sort of compassion for each other and for people and for nature too. So this becomes difficult decisions, difficult discussions. Huh? So you must be having, sometimes when you got a shortage of resources in your enterprise to apply to something, then the discussion in the board and between you and your husband about what's the right way to do it. That's, I'm saying, bringing let's generalize, a woman's way of thinking together with a man's way of thinking to take the right decision. Can you recount difficult discussions?
So, Mr. Myra, it happens very, very often, right? Because, a men's way of thinking is driven by, I would say at times completely driven by logic alone. Mm-hmm. And a women's way of thinking actually is more holistic, I would say. I'm sorry if I'm, touching a wrong chord, but I genuinely feel that women have a more holistic approach to looking at the problem. And men would just look at what is required to be done for it to happen the way it should, right? So I think that, and these difficult conversations happen multiple times. You have to just, in our case, given that we are living together 24/7, we have to somewhere say that, these are decisions which are mine, and you take a step back. And there are occasions where I have to step back and say, okay, I mean, you do it your way, but this is how I think about it. And I think the beauty is that if you can bring a consensus around it. You have to value the perspective and the thinking process that the other person is bringing in. And I'm sure there is merit in it, right? You have to look at it from an open mind and evaluate it on its merits and demerits, rather than getting worked about the fact that it has to happen my way or it has to happen your way. So yeah, that's how we handle situations at our end.
Yeah, when you use the word my way and your way, this is where problems start. And my way is the highway and your way is the low way. And so you have to say, well, we need to consider many ways and,
Yes,
travel
absolutely.
together and travel together on those
Absolutely, absolutely.
And so coming back to you, Kiran, about where you may have, it doesn't matter, as we are saying, whether you have only 40% on the board. Many of your men might be thinking more holistically, like women, and many women can be, I know, they can be quite tough as nails and quite wanting to be logical and not considering everything. So it's the ways of thinking about the enterprise, that everyone is included equally, whether they're man, women, poor, rich. I mean, we talk of Gandhiji, and he was not a woman, but he thought like a woman, right? He thought of the inclusion in the enterprise of everyone and they having their rights. So can you talk more, since you got Kiran talking, people give you funds. Now the people who give you funds largely are controlled by men quite often, and they've got that sort of punch and impact ways. And you got to now take their money, but not do what they say should be done. Do you have these moments in your board to say, okay, we are going to take some assistance, but we are going to do it our way?
That was for me, I believe, Mr. Maira, right?
Yes, it's for you, Kiran.
Sorry, I had an unstable connection in the middle of it. So, see, I think the goals and the way organizations run, there's always a moving plan. There's always a shifting plan, because you can't continue with a constant plan amongst the changing environment. In the last 1 year, I think the pandemic has proved us all wrong. Our plans talked about humongous growth, very good quality of numbers. However, it has taught us that our plans are nothing in front of God's plan, and that's why with every environmental change, the sector change, the industry change in which we are constantly working, I think we have to re-gear ourselves. We have to refocus our strategies with the moving environment to make the best out of it and to make our money work. I think that's how it was put up, and that's how we need to constantly change. But what I believe is the conviction. If the leadership has a conviction, I think the board sees through it. So there have been times when we have changed our strategy. In fact, not very long ago, just 3 years back, we moved from a large ticket size lender into a very, very micro and small medium enterprises lender. And there was a shift in the strategy. There was a shift in our business model completely, the way we would operate and the way we would source our loans. But I think what the board saw was the conviction in the people who were running the business, and they supported us. So they stood by us, and I think today, as a one team, we stand tall, and we have done a good job so far.
Well, God bless her. They should be more like you and Purnima. And I know I'm hogging this conversation because I really would like to learn much more from you. But Soumya, please, there are many other people who are participating. You take charge about making this conversation wider now.
Maira, thank you, Kiran, and Purnima as well. We have some very interesting questions, actually. One by Vineet, asking more women in job, more power to women. Should men be insecure, or should they be partnering this change? How has been the experience of the ladies here about how men in general has reacted to it? Purnima and Kiran, do you want to take that?
Yeah, sure. I'll let Purnima take it first.
So, Vineet, you've seen it all over these 11 years at INI. And it's about, I don't think men see women as threat. They've come to realize that women bring in a lot of value, which eventually is for the larger good, and that they need to embrace it. So I actually don't feel that, they see us as a threat to them at all.
I think I completely reciprocate with Purnima's thoughts. I think, even if you were to start at your family, I think the things today are very, very different. We have come a long way. It's not something that we are talking of 15, 20, 25 years back. Uh, uh, all the men in the family equally support, and so is the support coming from your co-workers. So whether it's your immediate boss, or it is your colleague, or it is your own direct reportee, I think the partnership has become a much smoother and a much better task these days. And it is a balancing act. Like I continue to say, I have said it multiple times, Vineet, it is a balancing act, and it is a partnership between the two genders. So the way we need more and more women to prove their mettle, I think we need more and more men to continue to support.
Thanks a lot, Kiran. We have another interesting question by Sachi. She talks about how do you balance the societal and familial conditions imposed on women when trying to support their entry into the workforce. There are a lot of arguments about meritocracy when it comes to affirmative action for women, but how can it be true meritocracy when women don't have the same access to education as men do? So, and what do you say to men feeling persecuted because women are being given a voice? So, Mr. Myra, do you want to take this?
Yeah, something interesting in the answer to Vineet's a question also. And Kiran, the word you used was, supporting. So who's supporting whom? And we're talking about a partnership. It's not a woman supporting the man in the man's enterprise, or the man or woman supporting the other way around, sorry, the man supporting the woman in hers. It is, we are in a partnership together. And so this question now asked is a very good one. It comes to that the whole education system is teaching us how to think logically, scientifically, deductively. And as we said, maybe men tend to think more of that ways, or they began to think more that way because more men get education. And now we're getting women to join that education system so that they can join the boards with the similar education. But I'm saying in a way, it's a limited education. In some ways, it's the wrong education. So we need an education of the woman's way. And then let men start to climb up and be certified by women to say, yeah, you are capable of doing the work the way it's supposed to be done. And the word that you used is about, Kiran, as you said, about thinking holistically versus thinking narrowly. And this, I think, a mother does very well, about taking all things into account. And as you said, things change. You can't have one solution. When someone falls ill with no income, she finds a way to adjust things to go with that. So this is my thought, but I'd like your response about this, getting men, trying to include women in their world by giving them education that men get.
I like what you say, Mr. Myra. I think I would like to add one point to that, is that we really need to start from our own home. I think the way a girl child is raised, it is very, very important that she's made to balance with the boy child. So within the family itself, I think many a times the women are taught to look up to the male counterpart. So whether it is the bigger brother or the father, I think that has to change. The way women are being raised will actually create an impact many times in for the generations to come.
Thank you so much, Kiran and Mr. Myra. We have one last question from Shubham here. So he talks about in certain manufacturing setups, he has seen women comprising a major chunk of the contractual workforce, instead the permanent workforce, who are more prone to job loss and pay cuts during adverse situations, such as this pandemic. So how do you tackle such situations while evaluating companies for new investments?
You're asking Kiran?
Kiran? Or even it could be around how maybe businesses are impacted because women-led businesses are impacted due to the pandemic. Any thoughts on that?
I don't see any difference in the way pandemic has impacted a woman-led business or a men-led business. I think it is completely agnostic to who is leading the business. It is more about the sector in which the company is operating. If I were to look at Ashwa, the highest proportion of the business is coming from the essential services. So that was a good thing, a good change. The leadership took 2 years back, and that's what we saw. That the impact was much lesser because we were in the essential services, the one that was closer to the people's requirement and on the ground. So I exactly, Soumya, I do not see any difference in the way the pandemic has impacted a women-led or a men-led business. It is just about the sector in which they are operating.
Sure. If I could come in and share our own experience, right? I shared with you earlier that we have a very large women workforce working with us on the ground. And I can tell you that it's been over a year since pandemic has hit us. And this particular facility has not been shut even for a single day. It is 80% women and just about 20% men, right? So I don't think it's women centric. Having said that, again, I've come back to my original point. Again, hygiene, need to be careful with how you're working, being super sensitive about your own self, about your family is something that is just, again, so natural to women, right? In case of pandemic, when you tell them you have to wear a mask, men may, after 15 minutes still take it off. And we struggle with imposing, this kind of behavior with our men workers. But once a woman is told and the importance is understood by her, trust me, it's 100% adherence. So it's just the way women are, and especially in case of pandemic and the way women have responded to it, especially workforce, it's phenomenal.
Yeah, I think I'll just like to add to what Purnima said. There are many households today, especially in the second phase of lockdown, when the multiple states are going through different kinds of lockdown. There are many households which are just run by the women's income currently.
Right. Thanks a lot, Kiran and Purnima. I would like to invite Mr. Myra to provide his closing remarks.
Very tough, I don't want to have the last word. I'm saying it's so customary. Well, we could have a woman to give the last word. That would be very, very nice. I would like to say something, but I'd like then both Purnima and Kiran to have both of them to say some last words. And what I am hearing here is that we need in the world a way for people to understand their place in the world. And their place in the world is to be part of something larger, a family, an enterprise, the world. That we are not here to change the world. We are here to help the world feel better. Okay, this, if I could call it the woman's way, the woman's way. Everybody should have this way. Our corporations, our business corporations, our funders should have this way, that we are here to help the world feel better and become better, not to get more out of the world for ourselves, for my power, my position, and my profits. I feel we need a different way of thinking, a different way of being. And it's because of history that women have proven that even when they don't have power, they can help the world to be better. So we don't need power to change the world. We need that way of being and thinking to change the world. But that's my thought. But I'd very much like Kiran and Purnima to have the last words, or you, Soumya. I want a woman to say the last words.
So maybe something I'll just want to mention here. The Avishkar Group has taken a very challenging goal to itself of having a equal representation in the years to come. So whether it is about the board seats or the women in leadership, or say talking about the chief executives of subsidiaries and associates, I think we as a part of Ashwa as a part of Avishkar, we have also taken a challenge, and we have taken a goal to ourselves. The management has made a promise that we will open a one all women branch in FY22.
Soumya, so before you go, can I just
of course, please
share my thoughts on this? So again, resonate quite a bit with how Mr. Maya has summed it up for us. I still think that there are traditional gender stereotypes that are deeply ingrained in our patriarchal mindsets, right? And there are social prejudices that we need to break as a society. And that I think is extremely important. I think it's not about men, women. It's about the way we've been brought up to think about men and women differently. They are different. They bring their own. They bring their own competencies. They're different individuals, but when they come together, they create something beautiful. And that's what the world needs to recognize. And whether it's the family or whether it's the enterprise or whether it's the larger society. And the last thing is, while you break these traditional mindsets, which are so ingrained in our society, the other thing is, we need to make our workplaces safe for women to work. However much we may want to have more women in, in our organizations or in our setups, which are rural, women's safety still continues to be a very, very, very big challenge. So we need to work on these two aspects to really ensure that, it's a better place for all of us.
Thank you, Purnima. I think I resonate with what both Purnima and Kiran has said. We have a long way to go, and this topic you can't discuss and close in like 30 minutes. It's too short a time. It requires a larger discussion, different perspectives, and also requires change in the way we think and act. So really, the discussion needs to continue, and I hope we evolve our thinking as well as we continue to think about this and discuss more on this topic. I would just like to leave it at that. So thank you, Mr. Myra, Kiran, Purnima, for a very thoughtful and diverse point of view on this topic. I would also like to thank each and everyone who took time out to be a part of this conversation. We would like to close this with a very small video that shows Avishkar Impact Report. Maybe I would request Manish to play this, please. Thank you, everyone. There's been a whole lot of comments and questions that have been coming up actually. So maybe we'll put them together and we can respond to them later. If you're interested in reading our report, you can download the report from avishkargroup.com website. We'll also be sending the link to download the report to everyone, to all the participants here today. And I hope you enjoyed reading our report as well, and hope to have more conversations on impact. Thank you so much, Myra, Purnima, and Kiran again.
Thank you
so much. Thank you.
Thank you.